Saludos programas and welcome to another episode of AEW Ensemble, where we watch all the AEW stuff so you don't have to. I am here with Just Alice.
That's me.
And also with Mikey.
I'm him.
That's right. And this week, we all the last few weeks of the increasing quality of the shows goes to fruition as we get to AEW Full Gear. So the first thing we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be giving our Full Gear predictions. So moving right on to that, let's go start with Full Gear 0 Hour. And I have been notified by the Dark Council that I am contractually obligated to bring this match up. We have Big Boom AJ with Big Justice versus QT Marshall. Mikey, what is your pick?
This is easy. AJ has to win this one. There's like QT is that guy to get squashed in these weird cross-promotional like social media stuff like feuds. So AJ's winning this one.
All right. Alice, what is your pick?
Yeah, I agree with Mikey. AJ has to win with this one. I don't see any other outcome.
I too agree. Big Boom AJ with Big Justice will win this match. Moving on, I filled my contractual obligation. Huzzah! Now, let's start talking about the main card, which we have some really fun stuff coming up, so I'm really excited. All right, so first off...
Speaking of fun,
let's
have ourselves a party.
Right, and these cards are in no particular order whatsoever. So what you actually see in Full Gear might differ. Exactly. So let's start off with Mariah May and Mina Shirakawa. This isn't a match. This is the Championship celebration, which has been teased for a while now. It feels like ever since Mariah May won her belt. So in lieu of giving a winner prediction, Mikey, what shenanigans do you think might be happening, or do you think this champagne celebration is going to go off without a hitch?
Nothing can possibly go wrong. Of course it's going to go off the rails. That's how it is. Honestly, to me, I think this is where we see Mina calling Mariah out for her behavior and how she's changed since, betraying Toni Storm and all of that good stuff. So I think it starts off as a regular celebration, but I think this is where we see Mina start questioning Mariah like a concerned friend would.
Right.
But regardless of the how, this is where I think we begin to plant the seeds and begin the first step to Mina versus Mariah for this title at World's End in December. I think this is the genesis point, if you will, of this feud.
Okay. Alice.
I agree, but I think the impetus for this will be an appearance by Toni Storm.
Ooh.
I think what gives Mina Shirakawa the strength to point out this behavior in her friend is, the person like who's providing emotional support, right? Toni Storm, because we do know that they did partner in Japan.
Yep.
They were a tag team, so they do have an established relationship. So I see that. I'm hopeful. I don't think Toni Storm is coming back in action, but I do think we may see her.
Right. I am taking a little bit of a swerve. Sort of. While I do agree that this will be the impetus of Mina Shirakawa challenging for Mariah's belt, I feel that Mina Shirakawa is going to hire the Vendetta. And the Vendetta is going to come out and cause a ruckus. And it'll be Mina all along.
You can have that opinion.
I mean, it's okay to be wrong once in a while. I'm just kidding.
Right?
Well, here's the thing. I wouldn't be against it, but that would be if Mina was heel. You can't shake Harley Cameron's hand after the match on Collision and be a heel.
I mean, fair, but at the same time, during Collision, it did cut to the Vendetta watching the Mariah May match. I know that they had
Yeah, but I think
offered.
they were watching for it, and we'll get to that. We'll get
Okay.
to that.
All right. So that's
We're setting up a tag team match.
yeah, that's my prediction for the Champagne Championship celebration. Next, Hangry Adam Page versus Switchblade Jay White. Mikey, your pick?
I'm gonna go with Hangman Page on this one. Jay White beat him at Wrestle Dream. I
Okay.
mean, if I'm pretty sure we're gonna get one more match between these two, probably either at World's End or they get put in the Continental Classic and we have that blow off match there. Also,
Okay.
I'm excited for a surprise participant that got announced on the social medias, which we could talk about when we get to Dynamite. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Hangers here. I think Hangman wins this one. I feel like he needs to win this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Alice?
I agree. I wanted Hangman to win last time, and he did not. So I think we're gonna kind of get our classic needs 3 big
Okay.
matches,
Okay.
right? So Jay White won last time. Hangman should win this time, and then we'll get, like Mikey said, call it a blow off match, if you will.
Okay. I'm gonna give it to Jay White. I feel that we're gonna have
starting off strong, being the odd man out.
I am. I could because I feel that we're gonna have a Swerve situation going on, where Swerve had dominated Hangman until that very last match. And I see Jay White dominating Hangman until, like Mikey suggested, maybe at the Continental Classic, where they meet up. Maybe Hangman is blue team, Jay is gold team, and they meet up, and Hangman beats Jay White for the Continental Championship belt. So, but I'm going with Jay White.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair to his character, but we can talk about that later.
For the TNT Championship, we got Jack Perry, the scapegoat, versus Daniel Garcia. Alice, what do you think?
Oh my gosh. As much as I cannot stand Jack Perry, I just don't see Daniel Garcia winning this one.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to go with Jack Perry.
Okay. Mikey?
I'm going to go the opposite. I think this is where we see Daniel Garcia take the title, especially since Jack Perry doesn't have the Elite kind of protecting him since they're gone. They're finito. They're done. It's been Okada and Perry on their own, but it's mostly been Perry because we have yet to see much of Okada. So I think Danny gets this one here. So I'm going to go with Daniel Garcia winning.
All right. I too am going to go with Daniel Garcia just because with his new contract and all that, I think it's his time, and like you said too, Mikey, with the Elite disappearing, I think Jack Perry is then going to become a target for the Death Riders. I think he will become a target for the Death Riders, which I actually feel is how Daniel Garcia is going to win. And the reason for that is because Jack Perry has been using the Psycho Knee, which is Bryan Danielson's move, but it's also Wheeler Yuta's move. So that's it.
I just don't like either.
I mean, fair. Maybe they'll kiss. Who knows?
You know what? Finally.
Right. Next, we have MJF Roddy Strong. Mikey, what do you think?
This is probably the safest bet of all the predictions happening here, but I have to go with MJF because MJF is going to win. He's going to beat up on Roddy, which causes Adam Cole to get angry. And I'm hoping we get Cole versus MJF at World's End.
Okay. Alice?
I think so too. I think this is MJF comes away with the win because I'm glad that Cole lost so that we didn't get Cole versus MJF here. And MJF beating Roddy Strong gives more fire to Adam Cole. It has a really builds that story and we get more of a ramp up for World's End. So I see MJF winning this one.
I'm actually, yet again, I'm going to go with Roddy Strong, believe it or not. But the reason I'm going to go with Roddy Strong is because I feel that we are going to have a reappearance of a missing Wardlow that's going to come and win it for Roddy Strong due to shenanigans.
The Vanilla Gorilla will be back.
The Vanilla Gorilla, because he hasn't been around.
I forgot about Wardlow, so
AEW apparently forgot about Wardlow, but that's for a whole different
right, right. But hope that we'll see. Next, we have our AEW World Tag Team Championship 4-way, pitting Private Party against Kings of the Black Throne, against the Outrunners, against the Acclaimed. Alice,
why you gotta stick with me with this one? I love all these teams.
Right?
I want them all to get a piece of the pie. I do not want to see Private Party lose this title immediately. That would be so disappointing. So I want Private Party to retain in this.
Okay.
But also, oh my gosh. Put some gold on the House of Black.
Right.
Right. I'm gonna go with Private Party. I'm gonna stick with Private Party.
All right. Mikey, what do you think?
I'm not gonna lie, I think this is probably the most fun match that I'm anticipating to happen, because all 4 of these teams individually are very fun. And I was surprised that minus Kings of the Black Throne, who are more in betweener, the rest of these teams are faces, which I love.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I would, even the Outrunners being in here, I would love to see them win, because that's what my heart is telling me. But I 100% agree with Alice. I feel like it would be such a disservice to the fans if Private Party lost these titles in their first big title defense of these things. So I'm gonna go with Mark and Zay to retain the titles. Private Party's walking out of this as the winners.
I agree. I think Private Party's going to win. I think this is going to further push the Outrunners over. And then I also see that this is going to be where the Acclaimed.
Yeah, I think so too.
This is the breaking point for the Acclaimed, because as we saw this week.
Yep. Yeah, I think maybe one of them gets pinned.
Yep.
And that's the reason.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So moving on. So now. Oh, we got the TBS Championship, Mercedes Moné versus Chris Statlander. Mikey.
Look, it pains me to root against my girl Stat. I love Chris, and I would love for her to get this championship back, especially since Tony and Excalibur have made it a conscientious effort to tell us every time Chris is wrestling over the past couple weeks that she never truly lost the TBS Championship, because at Full Gear last year, Julia Hart pinned Sky Blue to get the title, and Chris did not get pinned, and she never had her contractual rematch either. So as much as I would love to see Chris win this title, I have to go with Mercedes. I don't think Tony and everybody backstage is ready to have Mercedes give up this title, but she needs to. Or if we're not going to give it to Chris, let's have Camille take it from her. I would love to see Camille take it from Mercedes. But in this scenario, Mercedes is retaining, unfortunately.
All right. Really quick, just want to give a shout out. What's up, Robert? Good to see you. Thank you for joining.
Lafayette, Indiana in the house.
That's right. All right, Alice. Mercedes Moné, Chris Statlander. What do you think?
Chris Statlander is taking that belt.
Okay.
I want Camille to turn on Mercedes. It might be too early for that. But I'm going to go with my heart. Camille's going to turn on Mercedes, and Chris is going to get that belt.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. I'm going to put my money on Chris. Just the whole like 180 turn on Mercedes has done on Camille. It just like it. They have to be pushing where Camille is now going to turn on Mercedes, so but yeah, my money's on Chris. So
yeah, the one thing I've learned about wrestling in the past few months that I've been watching is that they plant these seeds and they make it super obvious, and then they take 6 years to tell the actual story and actually do it.
Right. Yeah.
Listen, I would be more than okay with getting a point and losing a point if Chris wins. I just don't know if Tony Khan and the higher ups in the back are ready to have Mercedes lose the championship. to Chris. I want Chris to win, get it back. It would be such an iconic moment because she lost it at Full Gear last year, and then she can get it back this year.
Right. Yep. All right, moving on. We got Swerve Strickland versus Bobby Lashley.
Dude, I'm so stoked. I'm so excited for this match.
Same. Like, low-key, I am so hyped for this match.
Yeah. So, Mikey, I'm starting with you. Mikey, who do you think is going to take it?
I love Swerve to death, but I'm going to go with Bobby. I think Bobby needs to win this one. This is his first big debut match. This is the first match in AEW. And I know people are like, Swerve shouldn't lose. Swerve, I feel like, can lose this match and he can recover. But because this is the first big outing for Bobby, he is going to win this one. He needs to win this one. So I'm going with Bobbles Lashley over here to win.
Yep. Alice?
I agree. I'm going with Bobby Lashley to win this one. I think this is going to be an electrifying match. I'm so excited to see these two in the ring together. It is going to be incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Swerve, but I do think Bobby's gonna.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we stand with Swerve in this household, but Bobby Lashley, I feel, is going to take it as well. So, enough said. Next, got Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher. Alice, what do you think?
I have Kyle Fletcher winning this one.
Okay. Do you think he's going to win it clean or
No.
shenanigans? Shenanigans?
Shenanigans.
Okay.
Because he's gone full heel.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't see him winning anything cleanly for a while.
Okay. Fair. That's very fair. Mikey, what do you think?
I also have Kyle Fletcher winning through shenanigans, and I'm going to take it a step further. I don't think it would be happening quite this yet, but AEW tends to throw crazy things at us without us least anticipating. Shenanigans happens. Kyle Fletcher does win, but that's because Mark Davis helps Fletcher win.
That would be wild, Mikey. That would be wild.
Listen, if it did, I actually would love that. I was like, I feel like logically, I'm like, it's too soon, but my heart would be like, oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing.
I'm going to have to agree with Robert here. I'm not really, don't really care for this.
You see, I'm invested and I too think Kyle Fletcher's going to win, and I'm following Mikey's train, actually. I think that that there will be some betrayal.
That would be wild. I would love that, actually. Will to knock him down a couple more pegs because he was kind of like sky high.
Yep.
And that would be really good, I think. Very humbling, I think, for him.
Well,
to have
on top of that, too, Will has gone
Enough.
on record stating he's not afraid to lose matches. Like, he's okay with losing. So
Yeah.
Will can afford a loss.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, absolutely, he can.
All right, next. Finally, our main event, which is going to be for the AEW World Championship, Jon Moxley versus Orange Cassidy. Mikey.
This is also going to be an easy pick. I think this is actually going to be a really good match because I think Orange is going to bring out everything he has, which is my favorite version of Orange Cassidy. We love his comedy spots, but when he kind of gets serious in his wrestling, he ends up throwing out bangers. I still call the Will versus Orange Cassidy at the second Forbidden Door 2 years ago as my favorite match of that whole entire card, which was stacked with great matches. Orange is going to try his hardest, but unfortunately, it is not going to be enough. I have Jon Moxley retaining here, and I think this is where we see Orange Cassidy just get everything squeezed out of him, and this is where we don't see Orange for a little bit.
Right, Alice?
I don't know if I agree with you. I think we're going to get Blood Orange Cassidy.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And I have him winning. I know that Jon Moxley is trying. The thing is just not working for me. I don't really feel like he's the champion. He's been walking around with a briefcase. He hasn't been seen with the belt. Is that belt even in there? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But I guess also I see like your point with the story that they're telling with Jon Moxley. He'll probably come away with the win, but I'm gonna put all my eggs in the Blood Orange basket.
I'm gonna go with Moxley winning due to Marina Shafir shenanigans. Yeah, but I also see Wheeler Yuta finally making that turn from the Death Riders.
We'll see what goes down on Dynamite because Orange and Wheeler are fighting
it's right,
tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Wheeler. Yeah. So but yeah, I'm taking John Moxley in this one.
Yeah.
And before we move on from Full Gear, Mikey, do you have any other thoughts that might be happening? You know, any scuttlebutt that you want to bring up?
So I think because we're going to probably spread this story out a little bit, unless something crazy changes on Dynamite, I'm not going to lie. I was kind of there of all the matches that could possibly be on this card. There's only one that was missing, but I'm pretty sure that will be on World's End. I'm surprised we're not getting Ricochet and Takeshita to have Full Gear because we've been building the story. So I'm wondering if we're going to pad this out until World's End or wait till like winter is coming or something, which, you know, AEW dropped the list of all their shows for the next couple of months this morning, which was nuts. I'm actually really excited. One thing I noticed about Full Gear, and I actually appreciated is that all the matches for the most part actually have stories behind them going into the matches. Because that has been my biggest critique of like spring and summer AEW pay-per-views, because like maybe 60% of them had stories behind them and others were like 1 to 2 week builds. But for this one, we've either been telling this story since Wrestle Dream or a little bit beforehand. So all of them have stories and they make sense. So I was like, all right, AEW, I see you. Minus our 0 hour match. But I'm actually really excited about Full Gear. I'm hoping everything delivers because right now, Wrestle Dream, despite all the shenanigans that went down, is currently in the top spot of my favorite AEW pay-per-view this year. Right. But with Full Gear being a big 4, I know things are about to get nuts and is going to take us into the Continental Classic, into World's End, and then everything in January and February as we gear, because once World's End's over, we don't get anything until March for Revolution, which is from Los Angeles, which I'm super excited about.
Yes. Alice, how about you? Do you think any interesting things are going to happen in Full Gear outside of the matches? Do you think there will be some people? Do you think there's going to be some surprises?
Well, there are definitely going to be people. It's happening in a stadium.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So, no, I think that we can just let this pay-per-view be a pay-per-view, right? Without any like big returns. I mean, hopefully an appearance by Tony Storm, but I mentioned that earlier. But like Mikey has said, we have an actually really interesting and solid lead up to this pay-per-view, unlike the previous ones. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it needs anything else. We can just tell these stories, wrap them up with a bow, or continue some more feuds.
All right. There we go. So that is our Full Gear prediction for. We are going to be having our Full Gear watch along this Saturday, starting with 0 hour, which is at
6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m.
Eastern.
Pacific. Yep.
30 p.m. Pacific, which Full Gear is being held right here in Newark, New Jersey, at the Prudential Center. So, much excitement. All right, Ed. So, just to touch on, if you like what we're doing, you can find us on the interwebs. We're all over the place. Instagram, Threads, YouTube, Twitch. We have merch for sale, so go check us out over at bcwrestlepod.creatorspring.com, and also we have our Patreon at BC WrestlePod. So if you like, you can join the Patreon. We do a lot of a lot of fun Patreon things, behind the scenes stuff, private watch-alongs, things like that. So that's that. All right, now let's get to this past week of All Elite Wrestling, which of course is leading up to Full Gear this weekend, starting with AEW Dynamite. Mikey.
Most certainly, this is going to be fun. So I will be leading us through our November 13th edition of Dynamite. And I am so excited to talk about it because this was a really fun Dynamite, in my opinion. So after we get, it's Wednesday, my dude. So you know what that means. It is AEW Dynamite, Wednesday, November 13th, coming from Bridgeport, Connecticut, in the Total Mortgage Arena, which I totally love that they announced where they are. And we just waste no time because we open up with a tag team match this week on Dynamite where we see the Bang Bang Gang of Jay White and the Juice is Loose Robinson taking on Aggro Hangman Page, so Hangers, versus the Father of the Year, ? Christian Cage. So I'm not gonna lie. Last week, when they did the bumpers and they told us that Jay and Juice were going to go up against Hangman and Christian Cage, I was like, okay. I was like, all right. I mean, we're telling the story of Jay and Hangman, but let's get a tag team match in here. All right, because Christian's not doing anything right now, I guess. I mean, right. I guess we're not doing anything with Hook anymore. So, anyways, but this match I thought was really fun. I thought this was a good opening match. All four men are fantastic. Christian Cage does what Christian Cage does best, and in his diabolical turtleneck, and Hangman Page do the heelish of things. Juice and Jay are so organically over with the crowd. It is ridiculous. You know, the Bang Bang Gang try their best. You know, Jay tries to go for a Blade Runner. Juice gets dropped, by Mother Wayne because there were shenanigans that went down in this match. Mother Wayne, you minx, as the commentary likes to call her sometimes. Also, love you, Mama Wayne. You are the nicest person ever. Just saying.
She was very nice.
She was very, very nice. But even with the shenanigans, we thought that, oh my gosh, the Bang Bang Gang might actually win this one. No, Kip Sabian comes in, Deadeye, Christian Cage, and Hangman Page get the win, and I'm just like, all right, well, but I thought it was a solid opening match. I thought it was really, really fantastic, and this was a good way, honestly, to open up Dynamite. I think Jay and Hangman do solid work, and if their match at Wrestle Dream was anything to show, I'm really excited for this face-off at Full Gear. Round 2, I hope, brings something cooler and even more fun, which is crazy.
Before you move on, let me ask this real quick, and I'm just bringing it up because you brought up Christian Cage and it's forefront in my mind. Christian Cage, not announced at all for Full Gear, still has that contract. Do we think maybe Mox and Orange Cassidy just decimate each other to the point that Christian Cage comes in to cash in? What do you think about that?
I mean, that's always a possibility, but if I'm going to be quite honest with you, I think if you want to have the most impact, whatever our title match is for that World Championship at World's End is, I think World's End would be the perfect place for Christian to kind of just end the year as the biggest POS of 2024 and set up for what's to come with January and February, leading to something really cool at Revolution, selfishly, because I'm hoping to be there. But I think Christian cashing in at World's End would be the craziest way to end 2024 and to garner all that heat. So what I'm thinking is that I love Orange. I don't know if we'll get a rematch at World's End, but I think Darby versus Mox at World's End would be amazing. Darby wins, only for Christian Cage to take the moment from Darbs.
All right, Alice,
and then you get Christian Cage and Darby feuding, where Darby just continues to become more and more like Sting from the rafters.
Christian Cage cashing in.
Christian Cage cashing in. I don't see it happening this time. I think he's going to hang on to that as long as he possibly can.
Okay.
It seems kind of like what he would do, And then, like you said, when someone's like just knock down, drag out, like, then he's like,
yeah.
But I think not now.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like this is the second pay-per-view that Christian sits out of.
But I think that's okay. Like, he's okay to not have a story right now. Like, it's okay.
Like,
And
I think, I don't know if it was last week or the week before. Like, this contract is the equivalent to WWE's Money in the Bank, where the person who's holding it could afford to lose some matches or not be on TV as much, because then you tend to forget about them. And then when they come in for the big OMG moment of cashing it in and taking the title, then you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot he had it.
Right. Because it loses its, like, are they going to cash in? Is he going to use it? Is he going to use it? And you're like, hey, I don't care now.
Yeah.
Right. So when we forget about him, I think that's a good thing for him. And it's going to have good shock value and good storytelling when we've forgotten that he has this contract.
Yeah, very fair. All right, Mikey. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
It's okay. So after this, backstage, Renee is with Camille and Mercedes. Mercedes is still mad at Camille, so she sends Camille off as Mercedes does his interview. Mercedes verbally runs down Chris Statlander, and a la a horror movie, Chris comes out from around the corner and is standing in the back listening to Mercedes berate her. Mercedes feels the ominous presence of Chris Statlander in the background, turns around as Chris is coming up to fight her. Mercedes then backpedals and yells for Camille, but Camille doesn't show up to help. And Chris and Mercedes are fighting. Finally, Camille kind of comes and helps a little bit, but she gets thrown off. And then Chris and Mercedes go through a wall. Like, I was like, what the heck? So, and then, security comes to contain the fight and everything that went down. So, this was an interesting segment. I did a spit take as I was drinking water when this went down, and I know it wasn't meant to be hilarious, but I found it really enjoyable watching Chris throw people and like spear people basically through the wall.
Yep. I saw the spot too. It was a good catharsis.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. All right, guys. And ladies and gentlemen, I now present to you the next chapter in the telenovela that is the Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher saga, because that is exactly what we got next. Because after Mercedes and Chris went through the wall, we go back to the ring with Tony Schiavone as Tony, welcomes Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay does his thing. It's the bruv movement, which we love here in this household. And he, before bringing up anything with the Don Callis and anything happening, Will acknowledges, Will acknowledges Takeshita being a great international champion, which I tend to agree with. This man has been anywhere and everywhere defending this thing across the globe, which makes me super excited. I'm so hyped for his match at Wrestle Kingdom. It's going to be a championship match. It's going to be balling. And then, of course, Ricochet and Zack Sabre Jr. the following night. Anyways, so Will acknowledges Takeshita, because we really haven't had a chance for Will to acknowledge Takeshita being the new champion, since Will has been incapacitated since Wrestle Dream, which we tend to forget, even though it was only a month ago. And then, the Kyle Fletcher shows up, his music hits, he comes out of the way, and then the words are exchanged, and I was just like, damn, Kyle, you're just going there all over the place, my dude. Kyle has fully turned his back on Will Ospreay. There's no redeeming this man. And you know what? Kyle kind of pins everything that has happened on Will. And Will's like, hold the phone, bro. Hold the phone, bruv. That's not the case. You're calling me out for these things, but isn't this exactly what you've been doing to get to this point? So who's calling, hi Kettle, me, calling Kettle black? I'm just like, you know what, Will, you have a point here. But then the thing that kind of made me love this even more is that the screwdriver comes out and Kyle's just like, all you had to do was take this. And Kyle acknowledges the things that Will has done, but everything is for his own benefit. It's for his own good. And this is where and then at this point of the promo, I was just like, no, Kyle, we were doing so good. Don't go into this is for your own good trope. It never works out well. Just say that I don't like you. I was jealous of you. I wanted to come out from under your shadow, and I would be far more okay with it. But then Ospreay does a really fun thing. He takes the screwdriver and he chucks that thing, and it sticks itself into the mat. And I was just like, that is a visual moment right there. Social media is going to eat this up.
And they did.
It was fantastic. But, you know, Will Ospreay runs it down. Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay challenges Kyle Fletcher. And you know what? We are getting that match at Full Gear. Has me excited. Kyle turns, you know, around as he's walking up. And, you know, we can never have these things end in a very calm manner, because then we just have a whole brawl that ends this. And I was like, okay, this is cool. Everybody's fighting. People are on the outside. We go to the back. Lance Archer's the only person, you know, left after this whole brawl. And this is just a personal thing. I don't like how we finished this segment and then we just immediately jumped into the match, because Roddy's music hits and then we just go straight into the Falls Count Anywhere match between Roddy and Lance. I was just like, I was okay with it, but I also don't like when we just finish a segment and then you just jump straight into the next thing without like no type of break, like not a backstage promo, not a pre-tape, because I feel that it helps the audience, in my opinion, to reset what they just witnessed to come and anticipate for what's next. But, you know, but I was also okay with it because since it's a Falls Count Anywhere match, that match is chaotic anyway. So it made sense to end the previous segment with a chaotic moment into a chaotic match, which then leads us into, like I said, Falls Count Anywhere match, Roderick Strong versus Lance Archer. In my notes, I literally wrote, Lance Archer is about to murderize this man. Oh my God, bury the barricade. Oh my God, bury the barricade. Because that is literally how this match goes. Roddy, I love you, and I love that you were selling for Lance, but Lance was in control for like 95% of this match. Literally, I was like, Lance Archer made me almost believe him when he said everybody dies. I'm like, well, damn, Roddy's about to die in front of me on my television screen. I was like, are we sure he's making it to Full Gear now? I don't know anymore. But despite everything happening, even while Brian Cage shows up to try to, you know, get Lance the win, but even that is not enough because Roddy Strong has the Undisputed Kingdom of Matt Taven and Mike Bennett to even the odds, which makes sense because Brian Cage is the size of like 3 individuals. So 2 on 3 sounds okay with me. But, you know, Lance tries to go for the finisher, only to, you know, be hung up as Roderick goes for a leaping knee strike off the barricade, which was really cool to watch. And Roddy picks up the victory. Roddy earns his 3rd win. So by the conditions set forth by Maxwell Jacob Freeman, Roddy has earned a match against MJF at Full Gear. Yes. So I was like, okay, cool. So we're going to go to a break. I know we're getting to Takeshita and Adam Cole later in the evening. So we'll see what happens with that. No, we just jumped straight into that match next too. I was like, what is going on, Dynamite? Like, what are we doing? We're just bleeding through everything. And again,
I feel like it was like last week or the week before, Dynamite was just a bunch of movies, and now it's just a bunch of matches. Like, there is a balance. We can find the balance.
I was just like, what is happening? Even if it was like a recap video or something, I would have been like, okay, that's cool. But no, because Roddy is celebrating, but Takeshita blindsides him. And then Adam Cole comes down for the save. They get to the ring. And again, no break. We just go straight into Adam Cole versus Konosuke Takeshita.
That's interesting.
Wild.
It was wild for sure. This match was also really fun. I enjoyed this match. It was great. I'm gonna say my critiques for the end of this, not about the match, but overall. But as soon as we saw that diamond ring come up last week when MJF sent his, you know, associate with that envelope full of money to Don Callis in the diamond ring. It was only a matter of time before it would come into play. And boy, howdy, Adam Cole and Takeshita did put on a really great match. I really enjoyed this match. Panama Sunrise, Blue Thunder Bombs came out. It was fantastic. Takeshita puts on MJF's ring. He rolls back into the ring to lure, but unfortunately, Cole gets lured in for a right hand with the ring. Takeshita, comes in for the cover. 1, 2, 3. Your winner, which I was actually really happy about, is Konosuke Takeshita, and Adam Cole ends his journey to MJF for Full Gear at a 2-1 record. He could not get the final win, so therefore, again, by the parameters set forth by Maxwell Jacob Friedman, Roderick Strong will be facing MJF at Full Gear, but Mr. Adam Cole will not.
That's right. He'll be watching from the sidelines.
Yeah, I was wondering if he'd be even allowed to be ringside or if he'd have to watch from the sideline.
Yeah, I definitely would see MJF this week pulling that last minute stipulation that Roddy Strong is not allowed in the building or not allowed at ringside or something like that. I'm sorry. Thank you. Adam Cole is not allowed.
Could you imagine? We're going to have a ring. You can't be, we're going to have a match. You can't be in the building.
That would be wild, but
that's kind of like the Saraya Rules match.
Yeah, Saraya.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
That match was ridiculous. But Takeshita is not done with Adam Cole because he looks up to beat up Cole after the match, all that is said and done. And, but Roddy comes down for the save. Takeshita then goes after Roddy. So Takeshita is the size of 15 men, apparently, which, I mean, that boy is large. Unless we forget, you guys, he's only in his 20s. It's wild.
He's only in his 20s?
He's towards the middle, towards the end of the 20s, but Takeshita is amazing. But Takeshita is beating up on, Roddy, which then sends in Kyle O'Reilly for some reason to come in for the save. Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly share a moment, but then he has to run off because O'Reilly leaves the ring, because he's not friends with Adam Cole. I'm like, just get back together, you guys. We know this is where we're going. Just get back together. And then again, no break whatsoever. We immediately cut to the parking lot where the Death Riders have arrived to take over the TBS Superstation, as I put that in heavy air quotes. Yep. And, they make their way out of the truck as we finally go to commercial. Woo! How long of a stretch of time was all those segments? Not only did we get a segment, but it was a segment into not one, but 2 whole matches with barely a chance to breathe between them. Dynamite, what was this? This is my biggest critique of this episode. I was like, y'all didn't give me a chance to catch my breath. You're just like, we got 2 hours. Let's try to cram everything into actual 2 hours. I was like, what was this?
Yeah, when stuff like that happens, I wonder how much of that is by design or how much of that is production. There was a production snafu, and like, oh no, we gotta run this into this. We gotta run this into this,
Yeah, I'm just like, this was a lot. And you saw how long it took me to cover this. That's exactly how long it felt watching this whole segment without a break. I was Also, by the way, AEW, we need to work better on our wording, because when you put on that Moxley was about to take over the TBS Superstation, I'm like, is he about to hijack the airwaves? What is about to happen? I was hoping. I was like, I'm in control of the show now. I was like, I'm here for this, but no, we didn't get that. And AEW, you lied to me. He took over the Superstation. Did you mean he took over the microphone for 5 minutes? Because that's how it really was.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I wanted there to be.
Yeah,
I wanted there to be a, and then there's a close up of John Moxley's face. I'm in control now.
Yeah, and he kind of pulls what the EVPs pulled, where they're running the show.
Yeah,
But anyway.
And them running the show is them attacking everybody backstage, which would have been great, by the way.
Yes.
And okay, so let's go on this. You know what? I'm going to save this little tangent for when we get to our segment shortly, because before this, we're backstage finally after commercial break, where Renee is talking to Bobby Lashley before Bobby was interrupted by MVP, who turns things around by asking Bobby about ending, Swerve's career. So MVP hijacks the conversation. How dare you do that to Renee? I'm just kidding. Bobby says that Swerve is dangerous to everybody else, but he will make an example of Swerve come Full Gear, and the Hurt Syndicate take their leave after this. Simple, effective. Bobby Lashley is about to murderize Swerve. I love Swerve to death, but I'm hoping Bobby completely annihilates Swerve at Full Gear. Yeah, because then Swerve is like, I was too cocky. I need to go back to the drawing board.
Well, and like, for me, I don't know how much of the public feels this, but also with the way that WWE treated Bobby Lashley towards the end there, I really want him to have a huge pay-per-view moment in his first match, after all the snubs and whatnot that he had to endure. So yeah, I really hope. I mean, it's going to be a great match, but yeah, I hope Bobby Lashley, they put him on the pedestal, and keep it going with him.
Mm-hmm. So I'm excited for this match at Full Gear. I think is going to be great. So let's talk about the Death Rider segment next, because that is what occurred on Dynamite. And I'm going to save my big, get on my soapbox, I'm about to yell at the clouds moment. Because prior to getting into the ring, poor JD Drake gets ambushed by Claudio and Wheeler. And they drag this poor man out in front of everybody. And before, Mox gets on the mic and anything. I love JD, don't get me wrong, but if you really wanted the crowd to hate this, they should have grabbed Beef. Beef, I think, would have garnered so much more heat. Or now I would say grab the Outrunners, but because they're involved in the match at Full Gear, we can't brutalize them on television before that match. But I'm like, if you really want to get heat on this group, and this was a missed opportunity, no hate to JD, because I love JD with all my soul and being. But I feel like you could have picked Beef. Because not to say that JD's not over the crowd loves Beef. Or even, unfortunately, while I don't want to see MXM get their pretty little faces destroyed, have MXM Collection be the ones who get martyred in this.
Yep.
Again, I will save that to the end. But JD gets brutalized as the Death Riders with a limp JD, so to speak. They get to the ring. Mox gets on the microphone to address Orange Cassidy. The majority of this basically says that Mox first talks about Chuck Taylor having to drink food through a straw now after he got brutalized. I'm like, sir, you hit a chair over his neck. I mean, it could have affected the throat, but let's be real here. I'm like, let's be real. I was like, you did not do damage for him. Now, if you punched his teeth and he was bleeding, then I would believe you. Wire his jaw shut, but you did not attack the jaw. But anyways, Mox blames Cassidy for this happening to Chuck Taylor because Orange Cassidy couldn't save him. And Wheeler Yuta now belongs to Mox because of Orange Cassidy's competence. I was like, don't cry. I'm like, watch yourself, Moxley. We're not trying to get into I own this man territory because that's colonization. Especially because Wheeler is a person of Pacific Islander / Asian descent, and Moxley, as to my knowledge, is a white man. So colonizer, just kidding. So from here, he basically runs down Orange Cassidy, for their match at Full Gear, promising that everyone who wants to be somebody in the business will see that what Mox does to Cassidy, because Mox commands the AEW World Championship and the Death Riders have all the power. And I'm like, do you though? But then that prompts Orange Cassidy to come out. He tells Mox that, Mox is right, and he agrees with him, that Mox can do all the things he says, but that's only because he's holding what's in the briefcase, which is the AEW World Championship.
Is it?
That's what I also said. I'm like, is it though? So Orange says it doesn't matter if they fight all over the arena because the only way to win that AEW World Championship is by wrestling, which Orange is not wrong. And for a guy that doesn't like wrestling, Orange has done it more than anybody else on the roster, including Mox. And he promises to wrestle Mox at Full Gear, and he will beat him to take the power back when he wins that AEW World Championship. And then to kind of close everything out, Orange tells Mox, it's like, you said something the other week about how everybody's playing checkers and you're playing chess. Well, I also do love playing chess, and I've realized that I have to take out the pawns on the board. So that is why I'm going to be getting rid of your pawns. Yes, Wheeler, I'm talking to you, and calls out Wheeler Yuta, which sets up Orange versus Wheeler tomorrow night on Dynamite, which is the go home Dynamite before Full Gear. The music for the Death Riders hits. They go through the crowd, but it is, again, we think this is it, but no, Darby from out of nowhere drops down onto the Death Riders, attacks the crew, which forces everybody to run back to the drop, only for Darby to try to get in and intercept them, but Claudio pulls them away from the truck, hitting a giant swing on Darby before driving him into a gate. Darby gets dropped. Claudio gets in the truck. Yuta almost gets left behind, which is crazy and funny to watch, which also sets Darby versus Claudio for tomorrow as well. This was a lot, you guys. This segment was a lot.
Yep.
And so I feel like Alice, I feel like both of you can, contribute to this conversation, but Mox and the Death Riders are supposed to be primed to be these big bads of AEW. And regardless of their mission, that they're like the lesser of two evils, is like, we're doing this for everybody's own good. I can get behind that because a villain in which you can relate to their motives is such a powerful character to have, because you're like, I know I'm not supposed to like you, but logically I can see why you're doing these things. And, I think the biggest issue is because this initially started because they were trying to save Danielson from himself. That worked. But since Danielson is now out of the picture, I don't believe the things that Mox and the Death Riders are saying. And I think that's where I'm having an issue with this. Again, they talk about, and they're beating up people on the roster. It was interesting because they took out, Brandon Cutler. The EVPs were shredding documents. And I was like, ooh, are there some secrets in there about why the Death Riders are coming after the EVPs? EVPs leave. I was like, okay, Death Riders versus what remains of the EVPs and, our baby faces of AEW. This could be a good story. And that is what I had hoped we gotten. The problem is that we are getting Death Riders versus Conglomeration, which is okay, and that is what we said in our debrief after Wrestle Dream, that will probably be a good story angle. The problem is that the Death Riders haven't really done much to, outside of me as a viewer, if I were to put my position in story-wise for, the AEW roster, I need them to start beating up on people to make the roster scared and afraid to, challenge or say anything against the Death Riders. On the flip side, if that's not the direction that AEW wants to go with them, I would like to see some wrestlers like, while I don't like their motives, I can't necessarily disagree with what they're saying and start having the roster begin to split into sides and literally have a whole Avengers like Endgame scenario where you have half the roster supporting the Death Riders, have half the roster reporting, Orange and Darby, and then let it come to blows where a match is determined to see, like, not really for power, but like who is going to run the roster for a little bit. My problem is with the Death Riders, they haven't done enough yet to make me sympathize and make me want to not even root for them, but to make sense for everything. And I love Orange. I think he's a good first step in this story, but I feel like you should have had him, Darby, and some other, like Daniel Garcia, I thought was going to be in here and all that, but he's going off and doing things with Jack Perry for the title. So I feel like pieces are starting to get there, but we haven't gotten to the full extent of it. That is done for my soapbox. I have talked a lot. Adolfo, how do you feel about that whole over analysis of things?
No, I completely agree. And I think I might have touched on that a review or two ago. You know, I have come on board with this Death Rider storyline. However, it does feel like you have, you know, if this is, you know, you keep touting that you're affecting the entire AEW roster, it doesn't feel like that, because it feels like, you know, we have Don Cal's family, you know, and Osprey and Ricochet like over here. You have, you know, the Private Party and the tag team, you know, over here doing their thing. You know, everything feels like insulated little, you know, pockets. And I'm not saying that Death Riders need to come out and like beat up on anyone, but it would be nice to have their influence mentioned in some of the other storylines. You know, like perfect example, the Private Party, right? You know, Private Party got beat up by Mox and the Death Riders. It would have been, I feel, a good kind of connecting piece if Private Party had maybe mentioned or something like that. That was the push that they needed to get to where they're at. So yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Right. And again, I think the match between Orange and Mox is going to be really fun at Full Gear. But I'm hoping that once Full Gear is over, then we can ramp it up to where it needs to be. It's because right now it's this, to me, Mox is kind of saying the same thing in different coats of paints every week he gets onto the thing, which I think I know Mox can do better than that, but I'm still interested in the story, but I need them to start ramping it up to the next chapter.
Yeah, and then the other thing too that I'm not sure if it's a thread that has been dropped or if they purposefully have stopped talking about it, is this secret person that's pulling the strings.
Right. And I was so invested in that, and you had the Bucks shredding stuff. Maybe there was evidence of that. But again, we kind of haven't done much with it. So
yeah.
So we'll see.
It's very interesting.
Yes. Now, if you want me to get super invested, there is a person behind pulling the strings, and it turns out it was Kenny Omega all along.
That would be very interesting if that is how it pans out, because I know that there has been a lot of scuttlebutt about this secret person being revealed at Full Gear. I know that some people are saying that it's going to be Shane McMahon.
Oh gosh.
You know, some people. I think that it would be Kenny Omega coming out as heel Kenny Omega. I feel that would be good. That would be good.
Oh, so absolutely.
All right. So that was AEW Dynamite.
That's not. Oh, you thought that was the end of it. It's not.
Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
No, Dynamite kept going. Honestly, if we ended Dynamite there, I was like, this is great. But no, we still have a couple of things to go, because that's not the end of it. I'll make this quick, though. So after this, we get a recap of Fight Without Honor. And then we get Hi Guys, because Tomohiro Ishii lays down the challenge, and which, you know, Chris Jericho accepts. So in 2 weeks, we are getting an ROH World Championship match, Tomohiro Ishii versus Chris Jericho. And tomorrow night, they have the contract signing. We get the graphic promoting the return of the Continental Classic, which has me super excited. And I cannot wait for them to reveal after Full Gear. We are getting the blocks that is starting in the Dynamite after Full Gear, so it's going to be fun. We get into our only women's match of the evening, Dynamite. Also had problems with you. Britt Baker versus Penelope Ford. I was mad because once again, this is like 10 minutes at tops. And I like that Britt won, but not at the expense of Penelope Ford. I'm like, girl just came back and we're having her lose already to many people. Liz, whatever. But the interesting thing is that after the match, we see the professor herself, Serena Deeb, come out to the stage, seemingly challenging Britt as we cut away from this segment in the ring. Listen, Britt versus Serena might actually be fun, hopefully. But then I'm like, wait a minute, didn't we get this match not that long ago?
We did. It was a tag team version.
That is also very true. But then we get the best part of this whole entire episode because Adolfo, I don't know if you heard this, but nobody is ready for Mina because we get Mina Shirakawa backstage who promises to bring the champagne party to Collision. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yep.
But then she is interrupted by the great Harley Cameron where they do so many innuendos. I cannot repeat these things because we'll get demonetized. But I was laughing so hard, Adolfo.
Feel the wrath.
I was just like, this was amazing. And then Renee's like, we got to cut it. We got to cut it before we get in trouble. So this does set up Mina versus Harley Cameron on Collision.
Yep.
We then get to Lio Rush versus Swerve Strickland and my favorite TV match of the year, hands down, like Jesus Christ on a cracker, you guys. This match was amazing. Oh my gosh, this was a great back and forth. Lio Rush looked really good here. Swerve looked really good. Swerve wins, picks up the microphone. The Hurt Syndicate, he's going to fight the Hurt Syndicate ahead of Full Gear. They come out. MVP, everybody has a stare down. But, Swerve and Nana get destroyed once again.
Yep.
So I'm excited. This is going to be fun. Jamie Hayter, we cut, okay, this was amazing. So we hear from Jamie Hayter, who says, she's going to right some wrongs. And then at the perfect moment, she is cut off by screaming Julia Hart waking up in her bed as she answers the red phone. And we hear on the phone Brody King saying, it's time to come home. Thus leading Julia leaving to another room where we see the silhouette of Goth Julia handing her a bow and arrow along with her hat, which is signaling the impending return of our former TBS champion. And I'm like, again, whoever's been doing these Julia Hart vignettes needs to get a raise because this is the best. These are the best segments of 2024. That is not hyperbole. That is fact.
Really quick. Do you think Mercedes Moné holds on to the TBS championship until Julia comes back and then Julia regains that TBS championship?
I would love for that to happen.
Okay. All right.
I love it. So moving on, we get to our main event. Private Party are on ringside to keep an eye on what's about to go down. And we also get a banger of a match. This is for the qualifier. This is Kings of the Black Throne, which is Malachi Black and Brody King, taking on FTR, which is Dax Pornstache Harwood and Cash, Thickamcgee's Wheeler.
Yep. 50% of FT Runner.
Yes, 50% of FT Runner. As we also got word of that during the match. I'm not gonna lie, Adolfo. I thought FTR was going to win because they always tend to win and get themselves into these fatal four ways. I was pleasantly surprised that Kings of the Black Throne picked up the victory here. I was like,
right?
Yes. I also did love the little spot that Dax and Cash did mocking Kings of the Black Throne outside of the ring, where Dax sat down and so did Cash, and Dax did the things. I was like, oh, this is great. But what I loved even more, which is crazy to me, is Dax shook the Kings of the Black Throne's hands after the match. I was like, oh, yeah. Are we actually getting true babyface FTR? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I really wonder if House of Black is going to run it back and try to go after the Trios Championship that the Death Riders are currently holding.
Oh, absolutely.
I just like from a business standpoint, Malachi, we know Malachi and Buddy signed, lucrative contracts with AEW. We know Malachi, I mean, he said it on in social media. He's got an 8-year contract with AEW. With their drawing power, I don't see them not gaining those titles, and kind of like what we spoke about. I feel like the House of Black going after that trios championship would kind of help to to have this whole Death Rider thing actually affect the company, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Death Riders being trio champions is not necessarily helping the story as well. So if you want to either have House Black take those titles from them or something, but I'm just like they're kind of just there at the moment.
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of messy, but again, FTR showing sportsmanship after the match. Kings of the Black Throne celebrate in the ring as Dynamite goes off the air this week. So this is a very interestingly paced Dynamite. We had segments where everything just blended together. We have fantastic matches, and we continue to build towards full gear. So now it is just the tip as I pass it off to Adolfo. And why don't you tell the folks what went down on Rampage this past week?
Friday night, it's Rampage. Rampage, 15th of November. We start off with Hikaru Shida versus Top Flight's Layla Gray. This was a great opener of a match. Shida does end up with the win with the Falcon Arrow and hitting and pinning Layla Gray with the 1-2-3. Yeah, it was very good, very competitive. Though I feel it is time that we start giving Layla Gray some W's in AEW. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think since Layla is now like we have a official like final form, so to speak, of her character, I think it's good for her to finally get some wins. Now, if we're not going to give her wins on to AEW because she's also been fighting in Ring of Honor where she's gotten a win or two, I think Layla needs to be presented more with some wins. But again, it depends on what direction AEW wants to go with, you know,
Right.
Top Flight and Action Andretti and Leo Rush and all that mess.
Yeah, definitely. So then this leads us to our first backstage spot of the night, where we find Renee Paquette with a Harley Cameron, and y'all gather around the fire because it is sing along time with Harley Cameron.
Oh my god, this is so good.
No notes on this. It was fantastic. She starts playing the guitar, talking about Mina Shirakawa in the match, and then Renee's all like, we're out of time. And Harley feel it, and they cut it. They actually got the joke. They did the joke correctly this week. So yeah, what'd you think?
Oh my god, this segment was so freaking good.
So
like
good.
It was so stupid, but like in the best way possible.
Right? Yeah, I'm really digging Harley Cameron, how she's just leaning into just that goofiness, kudos for that, especially with such a serious roster. And then you have Harley Cameron, you have MXM, you have Outrunners. You need that levity in with all this other stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
So then after that, we do go to our next match which is Mark Briscoe versus Ari Daivari. And not that it was bad, but it was meh. It was a Mark Briscoe match. It was like Mark Briscoe paid by colors. He did all the things. He did his chair spot. He hits Ari Daivari with the froggy bow for the 1-2-3 and gets the pin. What do you think of this match, Mikey?
I like Mark Briscoe, but it's the same thing every time we see Mark Briscoe wrestle any member of the Premier Athletes. It's like, AEW has given me, and ROH has given me nothing to care about the Premier Athletes as a faction. I mean, I love the individual talent that's involved, but they really haven't been given anything as a group to make me like care enough about this. And honestly, this was just to have Mark Briscoe be on the show and get him a win. So I was like, all right, fine, sure, whatever.
Yeah, no, I do want to give Ari Daivari his flowers.
Absolutely.
Week, I have finally gotten an appreciation for Ari Daivari. And I'm kind of bummed out that he's being jobbed out the way he is, or I'm sorry, enhancement talented the way
He is
he has
cannon
been.
fodder.
Yeah, because he's a good wrestler, great selling, you know. Yeah, it's just it's yeah, it is what it is. So this moves to our next match, which is Azúcar Rocky Romero versus. Well, actually, no, I'm sorry, it's the Americanized version, so it's Azúcar Rocky Romero.
Don't do that to our man. Don't do that to him.
I'm sorry, I'm jaded. I'm jaded, Mikey.
I know you're jaded, but listen, there's already enough oppression in the world. We got to support our brown brothers and sisters in the world.
I just wish they would let him off the leash like he does in CMLL.
I don't disagree with you, but we gotta support Mr. Azúcar Rocky Romero.
Yeah, okay, fine. So Azúcar Rocky Romero versus Commander with MVP watching in the background. This was a fantastic match.
Oh, absolutely.
Fantastic match. Dare I say, this is one of those matches that can appear on a 0 hour for a pay-per-view.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we do have Commander hitting the rope walk shooting star press for the 1-2-3 pin on Rocky Romero and getting the win. But just like, oh man, some of the moves they pulled, and it wasn't. I noticed that some of the high flyers, they kind of like I said with Mark Briscoe, it's kind of like paint by numbers. Like you can tell when they're gonna do certain moves, but Commander and Rocky Romero, they hit some moves. I was like, where the hell did that come from? What did you think of the match?
I love this match. I really, really did. I was just like, I agree with you. This could be definitely on a 0 hour match, and I'm just like, I wish it kind of was.
Yeah.
But you know what? Rampage tends to be where really fun matches happen, and this was a really fun match. Again, I love that Commander is getting lots and lots of TV time, and you know, Rocky is also getting lots of TV time too since joining the conglomeration. So I'm never mad when I see Latinos get, you know, screen time.
Yep. So this takes us to our next backstage segment, Lexi Nair with Anna Jay, where Anna Jay starts talking about her impending match on Collision with Mariah May, but she's interrupted by Taya Valkyrie, who offers her assistance, the assistance of the Vendetta, saying Deanna sends her regards, and Anna Jay rebukes the Vendetta's assistance. What did you think of this segment there, Mikey?
I'm very interested. Like I said, I love that the Vendetta is doing really fun stuff, and I am here for all of it. I'm just hoping that we continue to ramp it up to whatever the next chapter of this is going to be, because we're kind of keeping Deanna and Taya in the same kind of predicament. So, yeah. So I'm hoping that as we continue with them, I just want to see them more in the ring, because I feel like we've only got to see them once, and I need more in-ring action from the girls, because I love the concept, I love the vibe, but now I need them to start decimating women on the roster to become a credible threat.
Yeah, or like coming out and, you know, not necessarily having matches, but maybe like coming out and like sneaking some people, you know, and whatnot. But yeah, we're sold. Show us what you got. Show us what you got, Vendetta. So this brings us to our next match, which is La Facción Ingobernable versus local talent Alex and Richard Holiday. I mean, this was a squash match. However, I will say there were some great spots, like when Beast Martos caught that fool and put him in the slam.
So
and
good.
A lot of great teamwork with LFI, that underhanded teamwork, you know, where they were distracting the ref, and then like knocking fools out. Yeah, it was good. Roosh does get the 1, 2, 3. Mikey, you got anything to add about this match?
No, I mean, you pretty much said it. It was a bona fide squash match. And yeah, I mean, I'm never going to complain with, LFI on my screen, but yeah, it was a squash match. I mean, since they're not, spoiler alert, because they're not competing at Full Gear, I mean, might as well give them a win here because, again, spoiler alert, they do not win to qualify.
Nope. Next, so this brings us to now Lexi Nair with MVP. And how MVP goes on, how he's scouting talent, and how sometimes you need to break people down to their bare bones so that they can be rebuilt stronger. This spot didn't really push a lot of story, but MVP was so charismatic in this spot that I was hanging on to his every word. You got anything about this spot, Mikey?
Not really. You pretty much said it all.
All right. And then we get a video package for Mariah May and Jay. And finally, this brings us to our main event, which is Ricochet versus Dante Martin. And wow, howdy.
This match ruled.
This was a another 0 hour, dare I say, could be maybe like a first match of a pay-per-view. These two brought it. These two, not only did they show, their high-flying agility, but also their ring acumen, if you will. Some great mat wrestling from the two of them. Ricochet does get the win with the pin on Dante Martin. A code of honor was adhered to at the beginning and at the end, which was very, very nice. What do you think, Mikey? What do you think about this match and about Ricochet? Do we think Ricochet is going to make his way into 0 hour? I mean, I know we had talked about it very briefly.
Right. So I would be kind of surprised if we get an international championship match at Full Gear on 0 hour. I mean, it's not impossible, but I honestly think if we don't get this championship match, like at one of the special shows, like Winter is Coming, which is in December, or is anything in January and February, like Fight for the Fallen is coming up very shortly in the new year. I honestly think that they're probably padding this match out to see what happens with Will and Kyle and all that fallout, because Kyle's in the Don Callis family. I think we're getting Takeshita and Ricochet. If not at like Winter is Coming or in December, we're probably definitely getting it at World's End.
All right. Yeah. I personally, having seen this match on Rampage, I wouldn't mind seeing Ricochet Dante versus Dante Martin Part 2 in 0 hour. Just so they're on a bigger stage, because I feel like they deserve it. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
And that ends our this episode of Rampage. Which who knows how much longer we have of Rampage. But brings us to Collision for November 16th.
So
this was a great show.
This was a great show. But before we get into Collision, because I only got 10 minutes, and AEW just dropped some hella big news. So, okay. I mean, this is tangentially related to AEW, but I think there's a lot of implications of how the rest of 2024 is going to look for AEW. But AEW dropped some big news, as well as ROH, CMLL, and Stardom. So, as we all know, Wrestle Dynasty is going to be a megaplex of, promotions coming together for a crazy wrestling event. So that's AEW, ROH, Stardom, New Japan, and CMLL. Well, all these promotions simultaneously just dropped that at Wrestle Dynasty, we are going to have the first ever International Women's Cup. So here's how it's. So just hold your horses. Let me explain how it goes. So over the next couple of weeks leading into January, which is Wrestle Dynasty, AEW, ROH, CMLL, and Stardom, however the companies will choose to fit, will have four. So we'll have fatal four-way. So each of the companies will have a fatal four-way. Then the winners of those fatal four-ways will go on to represent their promotion at Wrestle Dynasty in will go on. The winners of each qualifier will advance to a fatal four-way match at Wrestle Dynasty. So one woman from AEW versus one woman of CMLL versus one woman of ROH versus one woman of Stardom. And the winner will be the first ever international women's champion for the International Women's Cup. So they get a trophy and everything. And I'm just like,
that's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
Sorry, that's I didn't want to do that because I'm like, I wanted to make sure I get that out because I gotta bounce in like a couple of minutes, but I wanted to get that out.
That is great. I mean, I don't know, like, how much of like AEW, how much of Tony Khan is like pulling the strings on this. You know, we know that AEW, that ROH, that CMLL and Stardom, you know, we know that they have this working partnership. We don't know, but there's always been that question as to, like, at least in my mind, there's always been that question as to how much of it is a partnership and how much of it, you know, is something else. So to see this, especially with the women's division, because I mean, we watch the Los Lobos de Lucha review and hear us talk about women's lucha libre. You know, the great talent there in CMLL, the great talent that we've seen in Stardom. You know, so it's great that they are showcasing in this way, you know, and being able to pull everyone in. That's fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
Fantastic.
So, now that I gotten that out of the way, now I can be here for like 5 minutes. Let's talk a little bit about Collision.
Okay. So Collision, this one's for Mina. We start with the cool thing about Collision is that we start with and end with two big women's matches. So our first women's match is Mina Shirakawa versus Harley Cameron.
Best match of the night. Fight me.
Yeah. So really quick, Mina Shirakawa wins with a spinning back fist into the Glamorous Driver for the 1-2-3 pin on Harley Cameron. Mikey, I will give the floor to you since you only have 5 minutes.
Okay, so here are my quick thoughts on all of this, right? Love me some Harley, love me some Mina. Again, when Harley gets in the ring, she always surprises me in the best way possible, and she has come a long, long way for all of this. Mina Shirakawa, I have missed her whole dancing sequence at the beginning, which even though it's like 5 whole minutes, I don't care because now we're going to have Mina for a good chunk of time, it seems, for the rest of 2024, which makes me super excited with all of this. The match itself was really fun. You know, I wasn't expecting like a technical masterclass. I wasn't expecting it to burn the roof off the building. But I feel like we need to start having conversations of probably putting Harley Cameron in our like most improved wrestler of 2024. And the journey that she has gone on to from being paired up with QT Marshall and QTV to kind of being with, you know, the Outcasts and being, you know, treated as a joke, then getting her into the ring and actually having her be like, she's doing pretty good. And now she's getting to fight people like Trish Adora, Thunder Rosa, Mina Shirakawa. And even if it's in a losing effort, she always gives it everything she has. And that's what makes it fun. And then, of course, when you add Mina's like, you know, Joshi shenanigans in the whole thing too, with just how good their comedic timing is with the wrestling as well, is super fantastic. I thought this was a great opener, and this was smart for Collision to open with this match because I could not stop smiling from beginning to end.
Yeah. I feel that this is the match that has put Harley Cameron in a spotlight. Mina Shirakawa won, and everyone was happy to see Mina Shirakawa, but the performance that Harley put on with Mina, this was a fantastic match. A fantastic match and a great beginning match.
It definitely
Mike,
was.
you got any final words?
As my final thoughts for this particular match before I go into the great ether, I thought this was a fun opening match. Collision was a really fun show as well. I Need Me, Johnny TV, and MXM Collection are amazing together. And yeah, Collision was awesome. But with that, not to say I was in control anyways, but now, Adolfo, I bid you adieu. I will see you soon. And I know you're going to kill it. But thank you guys for tuning in. But I got to bounce with some other duties. But stick around and let Adolfo catch you up on Collision because it was a really good show. But I got to go. Bye, Adolfo. Love you. Thank you.
Bye, love you. Bye. So yeah, we're gonna move on with Collision, and we're gonna hit the Cliff Notes version, because we have already gone through our Full Gear picks and preview. So this is kind of treading some already known stuff, but anyway. So our next match tonight was Daniel Garcia versus Johnny TV with MXM Collection at ringside for Johnny TV. The match was actually good. It was short, and unfortunately, dare I say it was overshadowed with what happened at the end of the match, which is kind of a bummer for me because Johnny TV is a great wrestler, and he is every bit can hang with Daniel Garcia, so I do feel bad that the happenings kind of overshadowed the match, but Daniel Garcia does end up with the win. Whilst they were wrestling, Daddy Magic did get absconded from the announcer table because he was there by a looming Jack Perry. Daniel Garcia then is able to catch up with Jack Perry, who was whooping on Daddy Magic and had chained him to the scapegoat mobile. Daddy Magic and Daniel Garcia start beating on Jack Perry, and that's where the camera cuts off for right now. This brings us to a Leo Rush spot, where hopefully we're going to start seeing more of a push for Leo Rush, and maybe he might get that call from the Hurt Syndicate. I feel that would be a good addition to the Hurt Syndicate to add Leo Rush. Let us know what you think in the comments. Would love to hear about that. So this does bring us back to Daddy Magic and Daniel Garcia, who have now tied Jack Perry on the hood of the scapegoat mobile, a la hunted deer, if you will, and they start driving away with Jack Perry on the hood of his own scapegoat mobile. So that was very, very interesting. Next, we get the Hurt Syndicate. Shelton Benjamin and MVP, they come out for a match with Commander. In Rampage, MVP did mention Commander and that he was watching Commander, but it seems like he was just scouting Commander for Shelton Benjamin. Great match, another great match, great showing. Shelton Benjamin did a great job shutting down Commander and his high-flying antics. Shelton Benjamin does get the pin with the 1-2-3. Afterwards, Shelton, on the MVP's orders, Shelton Benjamin tries to unmask Commander, which, if you've been watching any of our Lobos de Lucha reviews, you'll know that unmasking a luchador is a very big no-no. Alex Abrahante, Commander's boss, does jump up for the win, so Commander is not unmasked. However, MVP takes out Alex Abrahante with a very vicious clothesline. Next, we do get a replay of Mercedes Moné getting snuck by Chris Statlander, which feeds into a spot with Renee Paquette and Chris Statlander, where Stat starts talking about her match against Mercedes Moné at Full Gear. However, Hikaru Shida comes out, and they kind of give each other's flowers. However, they do say that a match is due for the two of them. So we are going to be seeing Hikaru Shida versus Chris Statlander on tomorrow night's Dynamite. This brings us to another spot where we have Lexi Nair with the Acclaimed. Lexi asks where Billy is. The Acclaimed is going to be meeting LFI later in the night for the last spot in that Fatal 4-Way match against Private Party. But there seems to be more dissension between Max Caster and Anthony Bowens. Max, normally in the past when we've seen them do, that everyone loves the Acclaim thing and all that, they're in unison, they're together. But yeah, Billy Gunn was missing from this spot. Max Caster kind of seemed like he wanted to do his own thing. And then, of course, we have MVP coming out to talk to Max Caster. So, sowing those seeds of discontent with the Acclaimed. We will see what happens with that. Next, Powerhouse Hobbs versus the Iron Savages, Bulk Bronson. I am so happy to see Powerhouse Hobbs back on my TV. He looks great. He ends up making Bulk Bronson submit via torture rack. I'm especially with what happened with Will Ospreay and Powerhouse Hobbs' anger against the Don Callis family. I'm hoping that with this run of Powerhouse Hobbs, we have a more like tweener / babyface Powerhouse Hobbs, just because this match, he looked like he was having so much fun. Not only was he like smiling and whatnot, but I felt like it showed in his wrestling as well. So, if anything, it looked like he was just really appreciative to be back out there. So, welcome back, Powerhouse Hobbs. It was great to see you in the ring. Our next match, our next spot was the Undisputed Kingdom with Lexi Nair. Roddy just talks about his upcoming match at Full Gear with MJF. He still seems, when Roddy goes to serious Roddy, he still seems kind of like stiff. I don't know. I prefer kind of goofy Roddy when he does spots, but maybe that's me. Let us know in the comments what you think. But this does bring us to our next match, where we have Private Party comes out, and this is the for the final spot in the 4-way contender that we're going to be seeing at Full Gear. Private Party comes out to watch the match, and we have LFI, Roosh, and Beast Mortos versus the Acclaimed. Coming out with LFI is Jake the Snake Roberts. Coming out with the Acclaimed is Billy Gunn. A great match. The Acclaim does come out with a clean win with a 1-2-3 pin. I believe Anthony Bowen gets the pin. Interesting though, Max Caster resorting to some heelish moves, and then at the end, when Anthony went to hold his wrist so to raise their hands, Max Caster kept pulling his hand away. So again, sowing those seeds. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens at Full Gear. Next, we come to a spot with Lexi Nair with Mina Shirakawa, where Mina, very interesting. Lexi tries to ask her like what's next for Mina. Mina is very like abrupt though. Is this Mina just being Mina and being cute Mina, or is there something else going on in the background? Alice does. We had talked about this earlier. Alice feels like Mina is right now playing that cutesy role, and come Full Gear, we're gonna get the turn where Mina, does declare that she's going after the belt, Mariah May's belt. So any which way, it is interesting, great storytelling with the whole Mariah May, Mina Shirakawa thing. Next, we get the announcement for the Continental Classic. Again, very excited for that. That was one of the highlights of 2023. I'm looking forward to the Continental Classic. Continental Classic starts on the November 27th Dynamite, so I'm excited to see who's going to be where. Next, we have Lexi Nair with the Conglomeration, Ishii, Rocky Romero, and Mark Briscoe. Where they talk about how Ishii is coming for that title, for Jericho's title. So I just hope he wins it. Anyway, next we have a Full Gear spot, just announcing Full Gear. After that, we get Lexi Nair again with FTR. FTR talks about what's next for FTR. I thought it was really cool though. They gave House of Black the flowers for winning, and then they didn't dwell on losing. They actually talked about joining up with the Outrunners and the FT Runners, and they actually kind of pushed the Outrunners. So I thought that was really cool. That FTR, a storied tag team, a great tag team, is able to do that, to push this new talent. So very cool. Finally, we come to the Collision main event, which is a no DQ match pitting Mariah May versus Anna Jay, with the stipulation that if Anna Jay loses, she cannot challenge Mariah May for Mariah May's title. And if you get a chance, find this match and watch it. We had trash cans. Heck, the match started with Mariah May throwing a trash can into the ring, and then Anna Jay just missile drop kicking Mariah May, and then ding ding, it was on. The Vendetta was watching, so it's gonna be interesting what happens with that. But yeah, we had steel chairs, we had ladders, we had we had a ridiculous spot where they set up a barricade, and Anna Jay does a suplex off the second rope with Mariah May into the barricade. We see Anna Jay. She hits the Queen Slayer with barbed wire wrapped around her forearm, hitting that on Mariah May. Mariah May pulls out a spray and sprays Anna Jay, and then is able to win the match with the Storm Zero on a steel chair. And Mariah May gets the 1, 2, 3. At the end, we do see Mina Shirakawa coming out and celebrating with Mariah May. Mariah May goes to beat on Anna Jay a little bit more. Mina Shirakawa kind of pulls her away from that. So and this is where the Mina Shirakawa Mariah May champagne celebration is announced. So great match. It was a great match. Then, which I feel like this was a bit of a mistake, we had a Jon Moxley spot. It was cool. I enjoyed it. Jon Moxley was speaking very passionately about what he's doing. But after the banger of a match that was Mariah May, Anna Jay. Like, I felt like this spot should have been before the match because I had tuned out by the time it came around. To be honest, I was like, oh, wait, there's still like 10 minutes left in Collision. Okay. And then we had this, and then we had this November Rain Full Gear amp up thing. So, overall, Collision was really good this week. If you get a chance, I would definitely go back and watch it. A lot of great. The matches were very gripping. The spots were just the time that they needed to be. Great put together. Since I'm the last human standing, I will say I'm very excited for the way AEW is leading into Full Gear. I'm happy that we actually have matches that not only were announced prior than like a week before, but that we have had stories that lead into all these matches. So it does feel like that there's a lot to lose or to gain for those people that lose or win in Full Gear. I feel like Collision and Rampage were probably the best paced and produced, especially going off of how Mikey described it. But yeah, Full Gear is this weekend. We have our watch along, so please, please join us on all of our social medias. We'll be doing the thing. And then the Monday after that is when we will be doing our Full Gear review. For the rest of this week, please join us. Tomorrow night on Wednesday, we have Los Lobos de Lucha, where we will be reviewing the Viernes Espectacular from CMLL. And then on Friday, we will be doing our TNA review and our ROH review. Spoilers, it's going to be me. But at any rate, it is that time, and I'm gonna say this.
Let's get out of here, Johnny TV style. Sebastian! You're in the shot, you bald idiot! You fool!
I'm heading over to the spot, pick you up around 9. Meet me in the parking lot, never make it inside. We're getting out of here tonight. Yeah, we'll go anywhere you like. Yeah, 9/11, it's a heist, stole my heart, gave me life. No, I'm right, baby, I don't get my type on, yeah. She 11 with the lights on, yeah. Bite my neck just like a python. Breathe right into my lungs. I took a hit.